The cell was cold and dark. Water dripped from somewhere above, making small sounds that echoed against the metal walls. Sat in the corner, his back pressed against the hard surface, trying to stay warm. His body hurt everywhere. The guards had not been gentle during the questioning. He was a simple cargo pilot, nothing more. He moved goods from one station to another, earned enough to eat, and tried to stay out of trouble. But trouble had found him anyway. His ship had drifted too close to space, and now he was a prisoner on their royal flagship. They were the most powerful race in this part of the galaxy. They had conquered 12 star systems and ruled them with an iron hand. They were tall and beautiful, with skin that changed colors like light moving through water. Most of the time, their skin was silver or violet. They lived for hundreds of years and looked down on every other species. Humans were at the bottom of their list. The thought humans were ugly, stupid, and dangerous, like animals that could speak but had no real souls. Had been told he would die in 3 days. A public execution, they said. A message to all humans who dared to enter territory. He closed his eyes and thought about home, about the small colony where he grew up, where the sky was always gray and the rain never stopped, about his mother who died when he was young, about the streets where he learned to fight and steal just to survive. It had not been a good life, but it was his life, and now it was ending. The sound of footsteps made him open his eyes. Someone was coming down the corridor. The steps were soft, almost silent, not the heavy boots of guards, something else. A figure appeared at the energy barrier that kept him in his cell, looked up and forgot to breathe. That much was clear from her height and the gentle glow of her skin, but she was different from the others he had seen. Her skin shifted between pale silver and soft blue, like moonlight on water. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with something that might have been curiosity. She wore simple clothes, not armor. Her long hair was the color of starlight. For a long moment she just looked at him, looked back. "You must be royalty," he said finally. His voice was rough from the beatings. "You walk like the universe owes you an apology." He expected anger. Maybe she would call the guards and have them hurt him again, but instead she laughed. It was a soft sound, surprised and genuine. "I am," she said, "third daughter of Emperor." "A princess," nodded slowly. "I have never met a princess before." "I have never met a human before." She tilted her head, studying him. "You are smaller than I expected. We cannot all be tall and beautiful. You are also ruder than I expected. I am going to die in 3 days. Being polite seems like a waste of time." Was quiet for a moment. Then she did something strange. She sat down on the floor, right there in the corridor, so that her eyes were level with his. "Tell me about your world," she said. Stared at her. "Why?" "Because I want to know. My teachers told me that humans are violent and primitive, that you destroy everything you touch. But you do not look like a monster to me. You look like a man who is tired and hurt and far from home." Something shifted in his chest, a feeling he had not felt in a long time. Someone was seeing him, really seeing him. So he talked. He told her about Earth, the original home of humanity, a blue and green world with deep oceans and tall mountains. He told her about the seasons, how the world changed colors throughout the year, about snow that fell like soft white blankets and summers so hot you could barely breathe. He told her about the colony where he grew up, which was nothing like Earth, about the gray skies and the endless rain, about the poverty and the crime and the desperate hope that kept people going. And he told her about the stars, about how humans looked up at the night sky and dreamed of going there, about how they built ships and launched themselves into the darkness, even though they knew they might die, because the dream of something more was worth the risk. Listened to everything. She did not interrupt. Her eyes never left his face. "Your lives are so short," she said when he finished. "A can live for 500 years. Humans live for what, 80, 90 if you are lucky." "If we are very lucky," agreed. Then why do you keep fighting? Why do you keep trying? What is the point of building something when you will not live to see it finished? Thought about the question. It was a good question, one he had never really tried to answer before. Because the people we love deserve a tomorrow, he said finally, even if we will not be there to see it. Was silent. Her skin shifted to a deeper shade of blue. She came back the next day, and the day after that. Each time she sat on the floor outside his cell and they talked for hours. She asked him questions about human culture, human history, human emotions. He asked her about her life in the palace, about the weight of being a princess in an empire built on conquest. They were very different. Their species had nothing in common. They should have been enemies. But somewhere in those conversations, something changed. She stopped seeing him as human. They were just two people talking in the dark. On the third day came to his cell in the middle of the night. Her skin was pale, almost white. Her hands were shaking. "They are preparing for your execution," she said. "Tomorrow morning in front of the whole fleet. My father wants to make an example of you." I know, stood up slowly. His body still hurt, but he had made peace with what was coming. "It is okay. I have been ready to die for a long time." "No's voice cracked. "I will not let it happen." She pressed her hand against the control panel. The energy barrier flickered and died. Stared at her in shock. "What are you doing?" "I am making a choice." She held out her hand to him. "Come with me. I know a way to the shuttle bay. If they catch you helping me, they will kill you too. Then we will have to make sure they do not catch us." Looked at her hand. Long fingers, pale skin, alien in every way, but her eyes were the same as his. Scared, determined, and burning with something that looked like hope. He took her hand. Together they ran. The alarm sounded 3 minutes later. By then, they were already in the shuttle bay. Knew the codes, the patrol schedules, the secret paths that only royalty knew. They stole a small ship and launched into the darkness of space. Behind them, the flagship grew smaller and smaller, until it was just another star in the endless black. Watched it disappear. Her home, her family, her entire life was back there, and she had just thrown it all away for a human she had known for 3 days. Stood beside her silent. He did not know what to say. Thank you seemed too small. Sorry seemed wrong. Finally, he just said, "Where do we go now?" Turned to look at him. Her skin was shifting again, blue and silver and something new, something that looked almost like pink. "Anywhere," she said. "Everywhere, I do not care, as long as it is far from here." Smiled. It hurt his cracked lips, but he smiled anyway. "I know a few places," he said. "They are not pretty, but they are safe." "Then take us there." He sat down at the controls and began to plot a course. Behind them, the Empire was already sending ships to chase them. Ahead, there was nothing but unknown space and danger. But for the first time in his life, did not feel alone. And that was worth everything. The first week was the hardest. They jumped from system to system, never staying more than a few hours in one place. They were hunting them. Every station they passed had their faces on the screens. Wanted criminals, enemies of the Empire. Knew how to run. He had been running his whole life, but did not. She had never slept in a cold ship with no blankets. She had never eaten food from sealed packages that tasted like metal. She had never gone without servants to bring her water, prepare her clothes, brush her hair. On the third night, she tried to cook their rations. The heating unit was simple, just a button and a timer, but she had never used such a thing before. In the palace, food appeared on golden plates, already perfect. She did not know how to make it herself. The rations burned. The whole ship filled with smoke. Sat in the middle of the mess, staring at the ruined food, and began to cry. Found her like that. He looked at the smoke, the burned food, the princess crying on the floor of a stolen ship. Any other man might have been angry. Their food was limited, and she had just wasted a full day's supply. but was not any other man. He sat down beside her, picked up a piece of the burned ration and took a bite. He chewed slowly, his face completely serious. "Not bad," he said. Looked at him like he was insane. "It is burned." "I have eaten worse." He took another bite. "On my colony we had something called protein paste. It was gray and it tasted like sadness. This is better than that." She stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she started to laugh. The tears were still on her face, but she was laughing, smiled and offered her a piece of the burned food. She took it, she ate it, and she did not cry again after that. The days turned into weeks. They fell into a routine. Taught her how to survive, how to check the ship systems, how to read a navigation chart, how to hide their signal so the hunters could not find them, how to shoot a weapon because sooner or later someone would try to hurt them. Was a fast learner. She had spent her whole life studying and her mind was sharp. Within a month, she could fly the ship almost as well as he could. She taught him things too. She showed him the mathematics of hyperspace, the equations that made faster-than-light travel possible. She recited poetry, ancient verses about stars and time and loss. Her voice was beautiful when she spoke in her own language. And she showed him how to see. "You humans move so fast," she said one night. They were drifting in empty space, far from any planet, hidden in the darkness between stars. "You are always running to the next thing. You never stop to look." "Look at what?" She pointed out the window. There was nothing there, just blackness and tiny points of light. "The light you see," she said, "left those stars thousands of years ago. Some of those stars are already dead. We are seeing ghosts. Is that not beautiful?" Looked at the stars. He had seen them a million times before, but he had never really looked. She was right, it was beautiful. After 2 months, they found a place to hide. Station was a massive structure built into an asteroid, run by no government and controlled by no law. Pirates, smugglers, refugees, criminals, and honest traders all lived together in an uneasy peace. The only rule was simple: do not start trouble and trouble will not find you. It was not a nice place. The air smelled like oil and unwashed bodies. The corridors were dark and narrow. The people looked at strangers with suspicious eyes. But it was safe. They did not come to station. It was beneath their dignity. New people there. Old contacts from his cargo pilot days. He called in every favor he had, and slowly they built a life. Knowledge made her valuable. She knew patrol routes, security codes, and the schedules of military ships. Smugglers paid good money for that information. It was not honest work, but it kept them alive. They rented a small room in the lower levels of the station. 2 beds, a tiny kitchen, a window that looked out at nothing but rock. It was the smallest space had ever lived in. She loved it. "In the palace," she told one night, "I had 100 rooms, servants everywhere, but I was never alone. Someone was always watching me, guarding me, controlling me." She looked around their tiny room and smiled. "This is the first place that has ever felt like mine." Understood. He had spent his whole life in small spaces, fighting for every bit of freedom. He knew what it meant to finally have something of your own. The months passed. They learned each other's habits, each other's moods, woke early and made breakfast, stayed up late reading data files and learning everything she could about the galaxy outside the Empire. He liked silence, she liked to talk. He was messy, she was neat. They should have driven each other crazy. Instead, they fit together like pieces of a puzzle that had been waiting to be solved. Started calling her princess. At first it was a joke. She would make a face and tell him to stop, but the way he said it was different from how others had said it. When they called her princess, it was a title, a cage. When said it, it sounded like a gift. She stopped asking him to stop. One night they were at a bar in the station's lower levels. A group of drunk mercenaries started making comments about, calling her things, saying what they would like to do to a female, told them to stop. They did not stop. The fight was short and brutal, was smaller than any of them, but he was fast and he was mean. He had learned to fight in the streets of a colony where kindness got you killed. But there were 4 of them and 1 of him. A knife came out, saw it too late. He tried to move, but he was not fast enough. The blade was aimed at. It sank into shoulder instead. He went down. Blood spread across the floor. The mercenaries ran before station security could arrive. Dropped to her knees beside him, her hands pressing against the wound, her voice screaming his name. The whole bar went quiet. A princess crying over a wounded human. It was the strangest thing any of them had ever seen. Looked up at her, his vision was blurring. The pain was very bad, but he could see her face and that was enough. "Are you okay?" he whispered. She stared at him. He had just been stabbed. He was bleeding on the floor of a dirty bar, and he was asking if she was okay. "You are an idiot," she said. The tears were falling now, silver on her violet skin. "You are welcome," he said and passed out. He woke up in their room. His shoulder was bandaged, was sitting beside the bed watching him. Her eyes were red from crying. "You could have died," she said. "But I did not. You stepped in front of a knife for me." "Yes." "Why?" Thought about the question. He thought about everything that had happened since they met. The cell, the escape, the months of running and hiding and learning to live together. He thought about how she looked when she watched the stars, how she laughed at his bad jokes, how she fell asleep reading with the data pad still in her hands, how she called him rude and meant it as a compliment. He thought about how, somewhere along the way, she had become the most important thing in his universe. "Because you are my princess," he said simply, "and I will not let anyone hurt you." Was silent for a long moment. Her skin was shifting through colors he had never seen before. Blue, silver, pink, and something warm like gold. Then she leaned down and pressed her forehead to his, a gesture he knew, more intimate than a kiss. "You stupid, wonderful human," she whispered. "What am I going to do with you?" Smiled even though it hurt. "Keep me around," he said. "I am very useful." She laughed and cried at the same time. And outside their tiny window, the stars kept burning, ancient and beautiful and full of light that had traveled across time just to reach them. Neither of them knew what the future held. But in that moment, in that small room on a lawless station at the edge of known space, they had each other. And that was enough. 6 months of peace. 6 months of something that felt almost like happiness, should have known it could not last. The morning started like any other. He woke up early, made breakfast, and watched sleep for a few minutes before gently shaking her awake. She was not a morning person. She grumbled and pulled the blanket over her head, and he laughed and pulled it away. They ate together, talked about the day ahead, made plans for a supply run to the upper levels. Normal things, safe things. Then the alarm started. Every screen on the station lit up with the same image. A fleet of warships, dozens of them, surrounding station. Their weapons were charged and ready. And at the center of the fleet was a massive ship, larger than all the others. The flagship of Admiral, commander of the Second Fleet. Felt his blood go cold. He knew that name, had told him about her cousin, the man who had loved her since they were children, the man who believed she belonged to him. When she had run away with a human prisoner, something had broken inside. His love had turned to rage. His obsession had become dangerous. For 6 months, he had hunted them across the galaxy. And now he had found them. The message came through on every speaker in the station. His voice was calm, almost pleasant, but there was poison underneath. "People of station, I am Admiral of the Empire. You are harboring 2 criminals, the traitor princess and the human terrorist called. Surrender them to me within 1 hour, or I will reduce this station to dust." The message repeated and repeated and repeated. Looked at, her face was pale, her skin shifting to colors of fear and pain. She was shaking. "He found us," she whispered. "I knew he would, I always knew. We can run, find another shuttle, get out before." "There is no running." Her voice was hollow. "Look at those ships. They have blocked every exit, every escape route. There is nowhere to go." She was right. Looked at the screens showing the fleet. Warships at every angle, fighters patrolling every path, had learned from their last escape. He would not make the same mistake twice. The people of station were already looking at them. 20,000 souls lived on the station. Merchants, families, children, all of them would die if kept his promise, all because of two fugitives who had dared to run. An old woman approached them. Her face was hard but not cruel, just practical. "Two lives against 20,000, she said. "The math is simple." "I know," said quietly. Grabbed his arm. "No, we will find another way. There must be something." "There is not," turned to face her. His eyes were sad but calm. He had already made his decision. "I will turn myself in. They want me more than you. I am the one who humiliated the Empire. I am the human who stole the princess. You did not steal me. I chose to go with you. They do not see it that way, and your father might forgive you eventually. You are still his daughter, but me," he shook his head. "I am just a human. My life is not worth 20,000 others. It is worth more than that to me." Her voice cracked. Her eyes were filling with tears. Felt his heart break, but he did not let it show on his face. "Princess, listen to me." He took her hands in his. "These 6 months with you have been the best of my life. I would not trade them for anything, but I will not let innocent people die because of me. That is not who I am. And I will not let you sacrifice yourself for my mistake." She pulled her hands away, her fear turning to anger. "I freed you. I caused this. If anyone should surrender, it should be me." "Absolutely not. You do not get to decide that." "Neither do you." They stared at each other. Two stubborn people, each trying to save the other, neither willing to back down. The argument was interrupted by an explosion. Had grown impatient. The first bombardment struck the outer sections of the station. The whole structure shook. Alarms screamed. Somewhere people were dying. And in the chaos, a group of bounty hunters made their move. There were 6 of them, big, heavily armed, and very professional. They had been watching and for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Now, with the station falling apart around them, they saw their chance. The leader grabbed from behind. She screamed and fought, but he was twice her size. The others moved toward. He did not hesitate. The first man went down with a broken nose. The second took a knee to the stomach. The third managed to land a punch but barely felt it. He was not fighting for himself. He was fighting for her. But there were too many. A blow to the head sent him stumbling. A kick to the legs brought him to his knees. Someone hit him from behind and the world went dark at the edges. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was face, terrified and screaming his name, as the bounty hunters dragged her away. He woke up in chains. The cell was different from the first one, cleaner, more secure. The walls were smooth metal and the energy barrier hummed with power. He was aboard a warship. His body hurt everywhere. His head throbbed. When he tried to move, his arms screamed in protest. But he was alive. That meant might be alive too. He looked around and saw her in the cell next to his. She was unconscious, lying on a simple bed. There were no visible injuries, but she was very still. He called, his voice was rough. "Can you hear me?" She did not respond. He called her name again and again, but she did not wake. Panic started to build in his chest. What had they done to her? Was she hurt? Was she dying? A door opened at the end of the corridor. Footsteps approached. Looked up and saw a male walking toward him. This one was different from the others. Taller, more elegant, with skin that shifted through shades of deep purple and black. His uniform marked him as high-ranking. His face marked him as dangerous. Admiral stopped in front of cell, and looked down at him with cold eyes. "So," the Admiral said, "this is the human who stole my princess." Met his gaze without flinching. "She is not your princess. She is not anyone's princess. She is just." His expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes. "You speak to me with such disrespect. Do you not know who I am? Do you not know what I can do to you? I know exactly who you are, and I am not afraid of you." "You should be." The Admiral studied him for a long moment, could see the confusion in his eyes. He did not understand. How could a creature like this, small and weak and short-lived, dare to speak to him this way? "I want to understand," said slowly. "What made her choose you? What could a creature like you possibly offer her?" Thought about the question. He thought about the months they had spent together, the conversations, the laughter, the quiet moments when they just sat together and watched the stars. "I do not know," he said honestly, "but I know what you cannot offer her." "And what is that?" "A choice." His voice was steady. "You want to own her. You think she belongs to you because of some ancient tradition, some family arrangement, but she is not a thing to be owned. She is a person, and she deserves to choose her own path." His composure cracked. His hand lashed out, striking across the face. The blow split his cheek open and blood ran down his jaw. "She was always meant to be mine," the Admiral hissed. "You stole her. You poisoned her mind. You turned her against her own people." Spat blood on the floor and looked up at him again. His eyes were still calm, still unafraid. "She was never yours to steal." For a moment thought would kill him right there. The rage in the Admiral's eyes was terrible to see. But then, slowly, the mask returned. The cold composure slid back into place. "You will die tomorrow," said. "At dawn, in front of the entire fleet. Your death will be broadcast across the Empire. Every human in the galaxy will see what happens to those who forget their place." He turned and walked away. The door closed behind him. Leaned back against the wall of his cell and closed his eyes. His face hurt. His body hurt. His heart hurt. But he was not afraid. He had lived his whole life knowing that death was coming. Humans did not live long, a few decades if they were lucky. He had always known that his story would end sooner rather than later. But he had not expected it to matter. He had not expected anyone to care. He looked at, still unconscious in her cell. In the morning he would die, but maybe, somehow, she would survive. Maybe she would escape. Maybe she would return to her people and change things from the inside. Maybe his death would mean something. It was a small hope, but it was enough. He closed his eyes and waited for dawn. Woke in the middle of the night. Her head was pounding and her memory was scattered. She remembered the alarms, the bounty hunters, fighting, then pain and darkness. She sat up slowly and looked around. A cell. Clean walls, energy barrier, the hum of a ship's engines beneath her. She was aboard a vessel, had her. Then she saw. He was in the cell next to hers, sitting against the wall with his eyes closed. His face was bruised and bloody. Someone had hurt him and hurt him badly. She called softly. His eyes opened. When he saw her awake, something changed in his expression. Relief maybe, or sadness, it was hard to tell. "Hey, Princess," he said. His voice was tired. "You okay?" "I think so. What happened? What did they do to you?" "Nothing important, just the Admiral showing off." He tried to smile, but it did not reach his eyes. "He came to visit, wanted to understand what you see in me." "And what did you tell him?" "The truth, that I do not know, but that you deserve to choose for yourself." Felt something twist in her chest. Even now, beaten and bleeding and facing death, he was still thinking about her, still trying to protect her. "You should hate me," she said quietly. "I did this to you. If I had not freed you from that first cell, you would have died quickly. Now you have suffered for months, running and hiding, and you are going to die anyway, because of me." "No," his voice was firm. "You gave me 6 months of life, real life. Not just existing, not just surviving, living. I would not trade those months for anything. Okay? Listen to me. He moved closer to the barrier between their cells, as close as he could get. I have spent my whole life alone. No family, no friends, no one who cared if I lived or died. Then I met you and everything changed. You showed me what it feels like to matter to someone, to belong somewhere. That is worth more than 1,000 years of emptiness. Tears were running down's face now. She pressed her hand against the barrier, wishing she could touch him. I cannot let you die, she whispered. There must be a way. There is not, and that is okay, but you have to promise me something. What? Survive, go back to your people. Use your voice to change things. You have seen what humans really are. You know we are not monsters. Tell them, make them understand. They will not listen to me. I am a traitor. Maybe, but you are also a princess. The daughter of an emperor. You have power more than you know. Use it. She shook her head, refusing to accept his words. I am not strong enough. Yes, you are. His eyes held hers, steady and sure. You are the strongest person I have ever met. You walked away from everything you knew for something you believed in. That takes more courage than anything I have ever done. Looked at him. This human, this small and fragile creature with his too short life and his stubborn heart. He believed in her. Even now, at the end, he believed in her. She made a decision. I am going to get us out, she said. Dad? No, listen to me now. Her voice was hard, determined. You gave me 6 months of freedom, the first real freedom I have ever had. I am not letting it end like this, not without a fight. Stared at her for a long moment, then slowly he nodded. What do you need me to do? She smiled through her tears. Stay alive until I come back. Over the next few hours worked. She had spent her whole life in the palace, surrounded by servants and guards and nobles. Many of them had been kind to her. Some had even questioned the emperor's brutality in whispers when they thought no one was listening. A few of those loyal servants were aboard this ship. Crew was not entirely his own. Some had been assigned by the palace, and they still remembered the princess who had smiled at them, learned their names, treated them like people instead of tools. Through careful words passed to a sympathetic guard, made contact with 3 of them. A mechanic named who had fixed her first practice ship when she was a child. A cook named who had snuck her sweets when her father was not looking. And a junior officer named who had once told that she dreamed of a different kind of empire. It was a small group, too small really, but it was all she had. The plan was simple. Would disable the security systems for 60 seconds, would create a distraction in the mess hall, would unlock the cells and guide them to the shuttle bay. If everything went perfectly, they would be off the ship before even knew what had happened. Of course, nothing ever went perfectly. In the hour before dawn, and made their move. The cells opened. The corridors were empty just as had promised. They ran through the ship, staying low, moving fast. For a few beautiful minutes, thought they might actually make it. Then they reached the shuttle bay. Was waiting for them. He stood in the center of the bay, surrounded by a full security team. 20 soldiers, all armed, all pointing their weapons at the 2 fugitives. Behind him and knelt on the floor with their hands bound. They had been caught, betrayed probably by someone had trusted. Did you really think I would not anticipate this? His voice was calm, almost gentle. I have known you your whole life. I know how you think. I knew you would try to run. His heart sank. They had been so close, so close. Let them go, she said, gesturing to her captured allies. They were only following my orders. Punish me if you must, but spare them. Noble as always, smiled, but there was no warmth in it. But I am afraid I cannot do that. Traitors must be made an example of, all of them. He raised his hand and saw what he was holding. A neural disruptor, a terrible weapon designed specifically for biology. One shot would destroy us mind completely. The body would survive, breathing and moving, but the person inside would be gone forever. It was a fate worse than death, and was pointing it at. "If I cannot have you," he said softly, "then no one will, especially not this human filth." Moved forward, putting himself between and the weapon. "You want to kill someone? Kill me. Leave her alone." How touching. His finger tightened on the trigger. "But I think I would rather watch you suffer. Watch her fade away in front of your eyes. Watch you realize that you failed to protect her." "Please," said. He had never begged for anything in his life, but he was begging now. "Please, I will do anything, just do not hurt her." "Anything. Anything." Tilted his head, considering. For a moment, dared to hope that he might show mercy. Then he laughed. "You humans are so predictable," he said. "Always making promises you cannot keep, always thinking your feelings matter, but they do not. You are nothing. You are dust. And in a moment you will watch everything you love disappear." He aimed the weapon at its head. Time seemed to slow. Saw the hatred in his eyes. He saw the Admiral's finger squeezing the trigger. He saw the weapon beginning to fire. And he knew with perfect clarity what he had to do. He had always known this moment would come. The moment when he would have to choose between his own life and something greater. He had thought about it in the quiet hours of the night when was asleep and he was watching the stars. His life was short anyway, a few more decades, maybe less. Humans burned bright and fast, then faded away. But had centuries ahead of her, centuries to change things, centuries to build bridges between their peoples, centuries to make the galaxy a better place. His life for hers was not a sacrifice, it was an investment. It was the best trade he would ever make. Moved. He threw himself in front of at the exact moment the neural disruptor fired. The beam, designed to destroy minds, struck a human brain instead. And it burned everything away. Fell. His body hit the floor of the shuttle bay. His eyes were open, but there was nothing behind them. No recognition, no memory, no self. His heart was still beating, his lungs were still breathing, but the man inside was gone. Scream filled the shuttle bay. It was a sound of grief so raw, so pure that even flinched. In that moment of hesitation, everything changed. Despite her bound hands, threw herself at the nearest guard and followed. It was chaos, desperate and violent. And in the chaos, other soldiers turned on, not all of them, but enough. Guards who had served family for generations, officers who had watched the Admiral become something cruel and twisted. They had seen enough. Was restrained, his weapon was taken, his followers were overwhelmed. But did not see any of it. She was on her knees beside, holding his empty face in her hands, calling his name over and over. He did not respond. He would never respond again. Someone pulled her away. Someone carried her to a shuttle. Someone launched them into space, away from the flagship, away from everything. Held's hand the whole way. His fingers were warm, his pulse was steady. But he was not there anymore. The man she loved was gone. And she had not even been able to say goodbye. The galaxy learned what happened aboard the flagship. It started small. A servant who had witnessed everything told a friend. That friend told another. The story spread through the underground networks, passed from station to station, whispered in bars and trading posts across 100 worlds. A human had given his life for a princess. Not just any human, a prisoner, a man who had been captured, tortured, and hunted by the Empire, a man who had every reason to hate them. And when the moment came when he had to choose between his own survival and the life of an alien princess, he had chosen her, without hesitation, without regret. The footage spread too. Someone had recorded everything that happened in that shuttle bay, the confession of love, the desperate fight, the moment when threw himself in front of the weapon. People watched it in secret, in hidden rooms where the Empire's eyes could not reach. They watched a small human man face down an admiral. They watched him beg for mercy, not for himself, but for someone else. They watched him die to save her. Humans, the galaxy had always believed, were selfish, violent, untrustworthy. They were short-lived creatures who cared only about their own survival. They could not love, they could not sacrifice, they could not be trusted. But here was proof of something else. Here was proof that everything they believed about humans was wrong. Returned to the Empire 3 months after her escape. She did not come as a fugitive this time. She came as a symbol. The story had changed everything. The common people, the servants, the workers who kept the Empire running, they had seen the footage. They had heard the whispers, and they wanted answers. How could a human love how could a lesser creature show such courage? How could everything they had been taught be so completely wrong? The Emperor was forced to respond. Rebellion was growing in the outer systems. Noble houses were questioning his decisions. Even his own court was divided. So he allowed his daughter to return. He gave her a voice, and used it. She spoke to the Senate first, then to the military commanders, then to anyone who would listen. She told them about not just how he died, but how he lived. She told them about his kindness, his humor, his stubborn refusal to give up. She told them about the months they spent together, learning from each other, challenging each other, falling in love. She told them that humans were not animals. They were people, different from, yes, but not lesser, just different. Some listened, some did not. Change came slowly, as it always does. But it came. Over the following decades became the architect of a new era. She opened diplomatic channels with human colonies. She abolished the laws that classified humans as lesser beings. She built the first joint schools, where human children learned side by side. She created the first shared research stations, the first mixed military units, the first treaties of genuine equality. It was not easy. There were setbacks. There were enemies. Some called her a traitor to her own kind. Others called her a fool. But she never stopped. Every time she felt like giving up, she remembered words. Because the people we love deserve a tomorrow, even if we will not be there to see it. She was building that tomorrow, for him, for everyone. His body lived for 30 more years. His heart beat, his lungs breathed, his eyes opened and closed, but there was no one inside. The neural disruptor had burned away everything that made him who he was. Could not let him go. She kept him in a private medical facility, the best in the Empire. Doctors and scientists from a dozen species tried everything they could think of. Nothing worked. The damage was too complete. There was no cure. But sometimes, late at night, when the world was quiet and she was alone, she would sit beside his bed and talk to him. She told him about her day, about the progress she was making, about the challenges she faced and the victories she won. She told him about the human ambassador who had cried when he heard what had done, about the children who now learned human history in their schools, about the first mixed-species marriage ceremony held in the capital city with millions watching. You would not believe it, she would say. The galaxy is changing, slowly, but it is changing, because of you, because of what you did. He never responded. His eyes stared at nothing, but she talked to him anyway. Because she had promised to keep him around, and she always kept her promises. When his body finally gave out was by his side. She was old now by standards. Her skin had faded to a gentle silver and her movements were slow, but her mind was still sharp and her heart was still full. She held his hand as his breathing slowed. She watched his face, hopping until the very end, that some spark might return, that he might open his eyes and smile at her one more time. It did not happen. He slipped away quietly, peacefully, like a candle burning down to nothing. Sat with him for a long time after. She did not cry. She had cried enough over the years. Now she just felt grateful. Grateful that she had known him, grateful that he had loved her, grateful that his sacrifice had meant something. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." She kissed his forehead, stood up, and walked out of the room. There was still work to do. In her private quarters kept a small shrine. It was not much, just a shelf with a few objects arranged carefully, a deck of human playing cards, worn soft from years of use, a pressed flower from the garden on station, a holograph of a man with kind eyes and a crooked smile. Sometimes, late at night, she would sit in front of that shrine and deal out the cards. She had never quite learned to play the games he taught her. The rules were confusing, and she always lost track of which cards were supposed to go where. But she kept playing anyway. "Your turn, princess," she would whisper, imagining his voice. And she would smile through her tears and draw another card. That was what had taught her. That was what humans did. They kept going, they kept hopping, they kept loving even when it hurt, even when they lost, even when everything fell apart. Because that was what made life worth living. The galaxy changed. It took generations, but it changed. Humans and learned to work together, to live together, to build something better together. Old hatreds faded, new friendships formed. And at the center of it all, like a quiet flame that never went out, was the story of a human pilot and a princess. They told the story in schools. They told it in songs. They told it to children at bedtime to remind them that love was stronger than fear, that courage was more powerful than cruelty. The story of the human who was expected to betray. The human who gave his life instead. The human who loved an alien princess so much that he died for her, and in doing so, changed everything. His name was, and he was remembered forever.